everybody and their neighbor. Welcome back to Gear and Gigs. I'm your host, Jet Stone. So glad you could stop by today. We are going to do some fun stuff with the new Earthquaker pedal that Reg has no idea about. Ha! What do you think about that, Reg?
I think that's right up your alley, tricking me and trying to fool me and make me get all... Because you know I was expecting something.
Well, we don't want to talk about that. He expected something else that's going to come up probably very soon.
Down the road.
As
I was all worked up for that, and now it's like a new Earthquaker pedal?
a new Earthquaker pedal. But it is more of a guitar Quaker pedal.
That's never stopped me before.
Pardon me? Okay, that's true. It could clearly work for other instruments as well. We're going to try it on guitar today. It is, of course, those of you that have clicked on the thumbnail, you know, it is, of course, the special cranker. Yes, it's a special cranker. It's not your regular cranker. It is not an average cranker or in any way some sort of a modicum of cranker. It's a special cranker.
It's like one of those ripped speaker distortion dirt box kind of, isn't it? One of something really like nasty sounding, fuzzy thing.
It is a boost, overdrive sort of a thing, you know, preampy boost sort of a thing. It has a choice between silicon or germanium transistor. So that's nice. You get the two flavors. Huh? It's honestly a very, very simple pedal. It's character is what you're after when you're playing this thing. I heard it demoed elsewhere and went, wow, it's got a character in the low gain settings that as soon as you hear it, you don't want to play without it. And then as soon as you started cranking it, as soon as you started getting special with the cranking, it started getting more character filled and juicy, and you could go too far, which I know you appreciate the old going too far ability. So it has that, I think, and some people will think it probably doesn't go far enough. But for me, it goes too far. But it has some really sweet zones in between that I found compelling and interesting, rather than just being another overdrive pedal. I think it's actually got something to offer. So,
well, yeah, I mean, I have never heard this, but then, you know, I agree. Like basically, Earthquaker, when they make something, they're basically giving you something tasty every time. It may not be your taste every time, but it's always like they don't mess around with their pedals. And I don't really have a lot of experience with many of their overdrives of any kind. I think the only dirt pedal I've ever owned is a Hoof Fuzz.
Which you like very much. Yeah. Well, let's see what this does. I'm going to start it in its most mild-mannered, you know, everything straight up setting on the, I believe it'd be the silicone side. No, sorry, it'd be the germanium side that's a little lower gain. Our signal chain for today, we've got two guitars to try. We've got a Tele, custom shop Tele in blue sparkle, with a roasted neck.
One of my favorites.
Thanks to the finding of the Guitar Sanctuary in McKinney. Not a sponsored video in any way, but they are a spectacular store. I recommend you checking them out if you're interested in cool guitars and amps. They know their stuff, and pedals. They know their stuff. This one they got for me from the NAMM show, and just love it. We're also going to be using an R8, a Gibson R8 Custom Shop 58 reissue. So we'll kind of get the humbucker side of things in a very traditional way, and the single coil side in a really traditional way. This is basically a 62 reissue, I think it is. Amp of choice today, we're going through the Boogie, California Tweed, one of my favorites. Set very, very clean. Mics, actually I'm using two mics today. We're going to use one of our standard tube mics that we use all the time. But I'm also going to use a Sennheiser E609, which I love because number one, you can just drape it in front of the cabinet. You don't even need to put it on the stand. And honestly, no matter where you put it, it sounds good. You never need to mess with it. I mean, it isn't that you couldn't find the best spot for it, but every single time if I'm in a hurry and just put it in front of the cabinet anywhere, it's good to go. And I can always make it sound good at the board or whatever. So just keep that in mind if you need a pretty inexpensive, super rugged, because I've thrown this thing around a lot, mic, E609 Sennheiser. Very cool. Highly recommended by me. All right. So I've got a mic switch down here to turn off my overhead. I'll turn that off. We'll listen to the dry sound first, and then we'll kick it on and see where it goes. Reverb is from the amp.
Oh, from the amp. Okay.
Yeah, from the amp. Sound okay?
Great guitar tone, yes.
All right. It's nothing special as far as volume. It's very low in the room. It's not very loud at all. And nothing was done to dial it up to make that special. Everything's pretty much straight up and down. And the volume, or the amp is set on its highest wattage. It does have a dial-a-watt sort of a setting on this amp, but it's set to its maximum. Yeah. Dial-a-watt, yeah. What do they call it? Multi-watt. They call it the multi-watt. Pardon me, Mesa.
Well, Mesa's always got to be different, right? But what they're trying to say is dial-a-watt. Like,
right.
You know.
Well, if that hasn't been taken, I think we're going to plant our flag in dial-a-watt because I do like that. But for now, that's where we're at. All right, here we go with a little special cranking.
Here it comes. Okay, so a noticeable amount of gain, obviously, when it's on. Mm-hmm. So it kind of,
and everything's straight up and down.
Right, it kind of puts the hair on it, right?
I would say that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
But what I noticed even more than that is it also, and here's a word that we don't use often enough. And I think if I'm not bringing it back now, I know it gets thrown around every now and then, but I think it should be more common. It adds girth.
And who doesn't want that?
Everybody's looking for a little girth, and I think that pedal is exactly that.
You know, I'm still in the middle of the show, but I can already see the caption, the quote that just showed up amazingly right next to you. I don't know why. It seems like something's going to happen there.
No filter. It's just thinking I say it. Wow. Oftentimes, I'll say it, and you and I will both hear it for the first time.
We've talked about running it over in your head first now.
Yeah, I know. It's too much time. God.
It did slow things down the one time we tried.
Right, but, what? I don't even understand.
Wow. Yeah. But you're right. It adds hair and girth. So what you're saying is it adds maturity to the sound.
And the funny thing is I wouldn't use the word maturity.
I wouldn't think that you would. Yeah. Now you put an M in front of that. We got
see where you're going with it, but it's
Yeah. No, I see what you mean though. It does it adds it adds interest, it adds some excitement. I mean, it adds gain obviously, but it's the way it adds the gain that I like. It's not it beats around the bush about the gain. Okay? For me, it doesn't just gain, It's like it's gain depending on your dynamics. It's very dynamic. So if I want a lot of gain, all of a sudden I hit it hard and boom, I get that. But when I don't, I can still get the benefit of the boost quality and that bringing up of the lower mids and the evening out of things that it does.
That's what it is. It is the lower mids. I don't know. Maybe I don't know exactly what frequency it is, but
feels like 400, 600, 800,
like the mid hundreds somewhere, 800 even.
It could be. But there's also some 200 added, but not a lot. It's just kind of rounds off the bottom, and then in the top where there would normally be a big dip, it kind of fills that in a little bit, and then adds like some sparkle and hair, as you say, on the top of that.
Right.
And it just, as I said, it just makes it more interesting. It takes a very bland thing and goes, now it's bigger, now it's more involved, now there's more harmonics and things jumping around, and there's more to play with as a player. All of a sudden there's like, if I hit this hard, I can get it to hang on, or if I want to extend this note I have to bring my shoulder up and do this guitar move like this when I do that. I can squeeze it out.
That's fine. It's
when this is on. As an example.
Yeah, there's more harmonics in that too. You can hear harmonics in the string, but then again, I mean that's what gain does, right? It's like preamping your preamp.
It is, yeah. I just like the way this one does it from a feel standpoint and a tonal standpoint. It's well, let's mess with the knobs. We haven't even messed with the knobs. I mean, they're straight up and down.
Yes, because it's a tweaker.
It's a tweaker. All right, so. Let's listen to the tone up and down and see what that does. As I believe it's pretty standard in tone land, but let's see.
Now that's interesting because what I'm hearing there is we were just talking about the mid hundreds frequency, right?
Right.
And what that seems to be doing is go up to higher mids, right? Like I don't know what thousands.
That sounded like 2.5, 3K up there, maybe a little 4K coming in.
But I mean, it's like it really when it was at its max, it was like that upper middle band was really being accentuated. And when you rolled it all the way back, it was almost absent.
Yeah. But it never got harsh. Even at the far extreme on a Tele, it still didn't get harsh.
No, it
got too muffled at the other end.
It was the frequency range, which the tone does. But that seems so specific, though, because it's funny that with it kind of in the middle, you perceive a low mid bump. But when you mess with the dial, what it really seems to be messing with is a much higher mid frequency.
Maybe it's changing the frequency as you go. Let's listen to that one more time, a sweep. It's definitely bringing in crispier stuff at the high end that seems like it wasn't there at all before.
So do this. Would you do this for me? Roll the tone all the way off, then play with the pedal off, and then the pedal on.
Okay, sure. So it's, it is actively rolling something down.
There's that lower mid boost right there.
Yeah.
Being on.
All right, so let me put the tone back in the middle and let's adjust the gain, which they call the more knob.
More, yes, the more cranker. More special cranker.
More special. All right, I'll start with it. I'll start with it where we're at. I'll go all the way down, come back, and go all the way up. Okay, so now let me compare all the way down to off.
Okay.
can hear those low mids, and it's getting just a little boost.
Yeah, it is. It's obviously far less hair and distortion on the signal, but yeah, because that's what I was wondering when we were messing with the tone. It was like, that's so odd how it seems to be two different areas, right? But just when it's on, just having it on, you automatically have that low mid boost. It's already it's there, right?
Yeah.
And then you can just add as much gain to that as you want. But even just by itself with the gain off, you're still adding, you're still gaining.
No pun intended.
No pun intended.
All right, so let's go up. Let me put everything back in the middle. And I'll play for a second like that. And then let me switch it over to the silicone.
Okay.
Okay, so let me compensate with the volumes, so we're not hearing that as one of the big differences. So we can find the character.
It is a big difference.
It is a big difference. Germanium first.
Okay. Interesting.
To me, the silicone, the silicone sounded cleaner and less fuzzy. Less short hairs among the hair.
Right. I noticed that it's definitely more modern. It's a more modern.
That's a good way of putting it. Yeah,
clean and it's not clean, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. It is. It's got a certain precision about it that the other one does not have.
It's not in any way a fuzz pedal. Anyway, it kind of does remind me. And I've never had any of these, but watching other videos and just the obsession with all this crazy stuff. The speakers, the torn speaker kind of stuff, where it's like it's not really an overdrive so much as it's adding this color to the tone that kind of has these edges are a little. It's not maybe so much hair as it is that the edge of the sound is all ripped and shredded.
Yeah, you don't want to use shredded because that's used in different terms for guitar, but I understand what you mean. It's like distressed.
Yeah,
the signal is distressed and shaken and stirred.
Yeah, somebody messed up with it. Somebody jumped in here and did something bad. Where'd my clarity go?
Yeah, So let me now that we're on the silicon, let me go up and down with the amount of gain and with the tone and see what the difference is. Let me do the tone first since we did that first last time. Tone's got a lot of ability on one end.
It seems like that band went up quite a bit.
It did. It's like it shifted because all the way off isn't as bad or as dark, but whoo, mama, does that get it bright on the other end? It's still not too bright, but it's spanky.
Well, I mean, if you're looking to cut in that frequency range,
man, boom, and this is with the Tele, so we'll try it in a minute with the Les Paul and see what that is, because that could be quite a bit different. All right, here we try the gain. I might have to match volumes because I don't know what's going to happen. So let's see with the more knob. Excuse me, more knob. So that was with the gain all the way down as a comparison with it off, so we could see what it was actually doing.
Right.
It's a softer distortion. It's not as gritty.
And what you said something at the very beginning about, like, for your use, there's a range of sweet spots in the pedal.
Yeah.
I can see that because for me it goes it both goes too far and not enough. And I'll explain that as it goes too far for the pedal that it is. If it were a fuzz pedal, it doesn't go far enough. That makes sense, right?
Okay,
so,
sure.
What it is like, I see that, like, when just in the messing around with this, there are spots where it's like, oh, that's right. That you want that, right? And they're not at the extremes of any of the settings. It's, the kind of the tone sort of somewhere in the middle, maybe favoring one way or the other, but the gain, again, probably in the middle, probably not pushing it too hard. And either the silicon or the germanium, I think they are very different. But I just have it set, and then if I wanted to, and I'd use the germanium like normally, and then for a lead, I'd some way where I could kick the switch to silicon and play the lead. But
it would be nice if they had a remote for that, because it really could almost function like that. I think pretty well. Yeah,
that's how
it is like a 2-channel in that way.
Yeah, just glue on a popsicle stick to it so you can just kick it with your heel.
I find it pleasant, even though it feels like it shouldn't be.
Yeah,
if that makes any sense. I feel like I should be offended by it, and yet I like it.
Pleasant version of a kind of a messed up sound.
It's like a friend that you bring over that your parents hate, but you like him anyway.
I think that with most all of my friends.
That's hey. It's a special cranker. Okay, let me just dial up some the two sweet spots that I really would use: the low gain and the high gain setting, and then let me switch guitars and see how that works. Okay, so for a low gain thing, I liked it better where it was a little raspier. I like the raspier setting. So I'm going to go to the germanium, and I'm going to give it quite maybe like 10 o'clock on the gain. Not a lot, just enough to get it past that point of meh into interest. And then I'm going to take the tone up quite a bit. I'm going to take the tone up to like 258, almost 3 o'clock, but not quite. Not quite. And that, like on the neck pickup, I think really gives it that zing you want. So I'll play without, and then I'll kick that on.
Okay. I 100% approve of that. That's what I would call that. They can call it whatever they want. They built it. They shipped it.
Special cranker.
Special cranker. They can call it that. What I would call it is the sweetener. This is the sweetener. Because that's kind of like when you kicked it on, I was like, oh, that's pretty sweet. Yeah, okay. It really does. It's a noticeable difference. And it's I guess it's where it's being accented and the warmth that it imparts onto it.
And you can play into it. You can really get things out of it depending on how you play differently. So that's nice. The sustain of it is almost compressor-like. Parts of it remind me of that Andy Timmons compressor. It's got this. It sounds better, more interesting, and it hangs on longer. And everything's got a richer frequency band to it. It's. For not having a real EQ and just having a tone, it really is pretty darn flexible. Now let me kick it over to the high gain thing, what I like for the high gain thing. And that, of course, is going to be the silicone. And that one, once again, I like the EQ up, but this time more like 2 o'clock, I'm thinking. I got to roll the volume down a little bit. And the gain I'm going to put at about 3 o'clock. So quite a bit of gain because it's a Tele. On a Les Paul, I wouldn't need to do that much. And let's see what that sounds like. So I'll play without and with. The sound hard. The amp sound that we got is just so boring. And then it just goes from boring into just fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Sweet.
I like what it does to the low end and the high end. It just, from a guitar playing standpoint, it just feels very guitar-y. I don't know what it would do on bass. We'll have to try that sometime. But anyway, that's what it does on a Tele. So let's check it out with a Les Paul. All right, I'll try it on the same setting since we're right here with this one, and I'll mess with the volume now. We'll see how it reacts in comparison to how it did with the single coil. This is no pedal first, just kind of let you hear what it sounds like. Oh my goodness.
All right. So I have to say this. It sounds a lot more like a distortion pedal when you're using the oppositely round double coil pickups. What do they call those? They got a name for them.
Hum breakers.
Hum breakers, right. No, ice breakers. No, that's gum.
Humdingers.
Humdingers. They're humdinger pickups. And holy moly, what an authority, though. I mean, literally, it just like, boop. Because obviously with the Tele, it sounded great, but it never sounded like a distortion pedal. Something in that, but that was just like, it's what you want.
It felt like I was playing Jimmy Page's rig all of a sudden back in '69. It was just big and hard to control in a really
right, because it's a combination of a pushed amp, but also pushed speakers, where the speakers are really.
But it's not. That's the thing. The volume is so low.
It has the sound of that.
It is the sound of that
being pushed harder than they should be.
That's the special cranking.
That's the special part of it.
I think so. It does sound like an amp that's just at its limit.
Thing is like it's
shaking and resonating, right? And it's conversational level. I mean, it's really not loud.
Shred. They're ready to just blow out.
Yeah, and
they won't.
It's pretty special. Let's try the germanium. I like that real well, though. I'm going to remember that setting because that's real good. All I've done is switch over to the germanium now. Sounds like an amp is just about to blow itself across the stage.
It's going to blow itself up, catch fire, and never work again.
It feels like that when you're playing. It's like you're careful with every note for fear you're going to send a 6L6 across the room. Right? What in the world? That is intense. That I sweeped the tone. That's what I did. Let me sweep the more. That sounds like a very British thing. I shall sweep the moors.
Now, if you go the other way, are you actually giving it less?
It Yeah, you actually owe.
Right.
At that point, you owe some sound. You have to stick
Oh,
around after the gig and like clean up or something.
Man.
It makes you play very classic rock style stuff. I don't know why, but I keep doing all this stuff that
sounds like. It's funny because at lower gain settings, it's still not like an uber clean boost.
But it's not so amp falling apart.
Right.
It's more like a studio treatment.
But it still has something. There's still something. It still has that girth.
I knew you were going to come back around to that.
That's it. You use it once, you use it twice.
that's why you have the girth.
And a real comedian will pull it back a third time when you least expect it. All right.
Let's just
like this pedal. Yeah. I don't think I would like this pedal on bass. I think this,
I get the feeling. Yeah.
It's like I but I can see where this, like, if I had a guitar, I don't have a guitar rig anymore, but if I did, this would be among the different flavors of drive and dirt that I would want to have available for certain, because it has that, like, if I was going to play some hard rock from the late 60s, early 70s, it's like, well, that sounds like an amp, like I said, that's about to blow up.
And this amp couldn't be further from that sort of sound, really.
Purring, like, yeah, whatever.
This amp does not have a lot going. I mean, don't get me wrong. This is a great amp, and you can make it sound really, really good. But the way I've got it set and at the volume we're running at, it's just
it's what
barely amplifying anything, and that's what puts the pedals to the test, right? So that's why we do it that way. In case you're wondering. We could crank it all up and make all these amps sound spectacular, but, if we're testing a pedal, let's give it a basic palette to work with. And if it can make that sound good, then imagine what you can do if you can actually go over here and then customize it. I mean, we could have taken it a lot further if we had been adjusting over here too, and, moving mic positions around or whatnot. But holy cow, I long to play that again with anything. I'm trying to think of some guitar that's not going to help. I think even with like Filtertrons or something like that, or P90s. Ooh, I bet with P90s that would be spectacular.
Yeah, I love P90s on, especially on a Gibson guitar, but I like P90s on a Fender as well, like a Jazzmaster. Those are soap bars, but to me they look like P90s, so in my head they sound like them.
Yeah, I like a good P90 definitely. I've got a couple guitars with P90s. We shall try that at some future date, but at the meantime, we've bracketed, in the meantime, I should say, we've bracketed pretty well with these two, and man, I'm telling you, I'm very happy with it. Yeah, bring out Flippy.
For sure. Jamie at Earthquaker kind of, like I said earlier, is like he doesn't put anything out that he wouldn't want to play with himself, right? Because that's his passion in life. Have you ever watched his like videos of like the Earthquaker, the whole story and all that? Kind of amazing. A lot of these guys that have these boutique brands that are kind of mainstream now. I mean, it just started out as like, this is what I like to do. I like to play music and I like to tinker with electronics. Next thing you know, you're modding a few pedals for yourself and someone goes, oh, I really like that, and so then you buy, and then it just grows into what it is now. It's like, he doesn't have to make a pedal unless he likes it himself or would, want to use it. And therefore they're all very tasty. I love the simplicity of them too, and how they're all different, yet they're all the same kind of look. They're not. They all have this basic same look to them.
Yeah, they all do something really special. Although
they do something special, all of them.
Yeah. Well, we like us some Earthquaker pedals, obviously, and
yes, big fans,
and definitely this one. Man, I'm in love. I really like it a lot. It's going to be showing up in my recordings for sure. I really like it. Well, Well, thanks everybody for joining us. I hope you guys had fun and learned something about this pedal. Please leave us a comment, like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. You know your part. We're barely doing ours. Come on, man, press that button. Anyway, for Reg, I'm Jet. Thanks for coming to Gear and Gigs, and we'll see you next time.